How do I stop?
Calling us back into open session, Marblehead School Committee, open meeting. Welcome, everyone. Jen Schaffner, Chair. I'd like to welcome everyone. The first thing we're going to do is Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, do you mind leading us through?
Yeah.
Back to back.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Our student representative, Ella, is not here tonight. So we're going to go on to the next item on our agenda, which is a facility naming request. We have a request from a family here in Marblehead to name our sports complex after their dads. So the Kulovics, Joe and Koopman and Tom Kulovich are going to come on up and make a presentation. We're going to hear from them and some other folks on their request to the school committee. Thank you. Welcome there.
Thank you very much. I'll start first. Good evening. My name is Jill Mary Koopman, and beside me is my brother, Tom Kulovich. Both Tom and I are two of the
Thanks, man.
both Tom and I are two of the 8 children of Barbara and Alex Kulovich. We're here this evening, along with other family members behind us, to respectfully request naming the Marblehead High School Athletic Complex, the Alexander W. Kulovich Jr. Athletic Complex. The reason we are submitting this request is because we believe that our father embodies not only Marblehead High School athletics, but also Marblehead Public Schools, its students, and its athletes, as well as the entire town of Marblehead. I'll give you a little background on my father. He graduated from Maynard High School in 1953 and subsequently put himself through Worcester Academy, where he graduated in 54. He went to Boston College on a football scholarship where he played football for 4 years and graduated in 58. He served as a first lieutenant in the United States Infantry from 59 to 61. He received his Master's of Education from Salem State University in 1964, and from 1970 to 2000 earned 80 credits from Salem State University for his doctorate. Tying this all back to Marblehead, my father was a teacher, head football coach, and athletic director at Bishop Fenwick from 1961 until 1970. It was in 1970 that he took a job at Marblehead High School as a history teacher and head football coach. He had moved his family to Marblehead a few years before, and he was absolutely thrilled to be able to work for Marblehead Public Schools. Alex served as a history teacher and head football coach from 1970 to 1980, and in 1978, the current athletic director fell ill, and Alex was asked to step in as interim athletic director. Subsequently, he became the permanent full-time athletic director later that year and served as athletic director for Marblehead Public Schools from 1978 to 2000 when he retired. He returned as interim athletic director back in 2002 and 2003 due to the illness of the current athletic director at that time. And then once again, he returned in 2015 for 4 months due to a brief illness with the current athletic director at that time as well. Alex and his wife Barbara had 8 children, all of who attended Marblehead Public Schools, and all 8 children graduated from Marblehead High School, and all went on to graduate from college. In addition, he has 2 son-in-laws and a daughter-in-law who also attended Marblehead Public School and also graduated from Marblehead High School. Alex and his wife Barbara serve as incredible role models and still do to their children and to their 20 grandchildren. 9 of their grandchildren attended Marblehead Public Schools, and 1 still currently attends. One of his grandsons currently volunteers his time after playing 4 years of college hockey with coaching the Marblehead High School varsity hockey team, who had a nice win last night. All of his children and grandchildren who attended Marblehead High School were student athletes, and all were actively involved with volunteering in high school and well beyond as well. My father's honors and affiliations are too numerous and would be here all night to mention, but I'll give you a few highlights. Though busy with his job, raising 8 children, it was important for him to give back to the community and volunteer his time to many causes. Some of the volunteering that he did, he served on the executive committee for the Massachusetts City and Town Administrators of Physical Education from 1980 to 1995. He served as the Secretary and Treasurer to Northeast City and Town Administrators of Physical Education from 1978 to 2000. He's a member of the Marblehead Gridiron Club from 1970 to present. He's a very active member with Our Lady Star of the Sea Parish Council. He's also has served on the Board of Directors for Marblehead Dollars for Scholars from 1982 to present, where he still serves. He served as Vice President in 2002 and 3 and President from 2004 and 5. He also is very active with the Marblehead Council on Aging. As far as some awards he's received, just to highlight maybe a half a dozen, he received the Association New England Football Official Coaches Memorial Award back in 1977. He was the first recipient of the Recognition Award back in 1988 of the Moynihan Lumber North Shore Student Athlete Program. He's in the Massachusetts Football Hall of Fame. He received the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Governor William Weld Recognition Award for Physical Education and Health at Marblehead High School in 1992. He also received the Massachusetts Athletic Director Association President Award of Merit in 2000. And lastly, he received the Cheverus Award from the Archdiocese of Boston in 2012, which is the highest honor given by the Cardinal for service to the Catholic Church in the world. So all of these accolades, are very nice. But what my father really was proud of was the student and the athletes that he interacted with. My father was actually instrumental with the building of the athletic complex as well. He served on the steering committee where he visited several area high school sports complexes and provided input and feedback for the new Marblehead Sports Complex at that time. My father had much success as a teacher, football coach, and athletic director, but most importantly, he was a positive influence in so many student athletes. He was so proud to work for Marblehead Public Schools, and he was also proud of the Marblehead student athletes, as well as his teachers and coaches for their positive contribution to those student athletes. Before I turn the mic over to Tom, I would just like to read the inscription on the back of this picture that that hung in our living room. That was given to my father when he retired from coaching Marblehead football to become the athletic director. The picture was taken in 1980, the last year of his coaching. And this nice frame by Arnold Gallery. To Alex, by your example, you've taught so much more than football. With gratitude for a decade of excellence, both on and off the field. Signed, the Marblehead School Committee in 1980. Next meeting.
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for giving us this opportunity tonight. My name is Tom Kulovich. I'm Alex's oldest son, most likely his favorite. It's a little uncomfortable to be here and sit before you and objectively speak about my dad. His 30+ years of dedication, commitment, and passion at Marblehead High School as a teacher, coach, and athletic director certainly speaks of itself. For those who aren't familiar with him, as his son, I'll try to provide a little bit of a background. While my father's honors and accomplishments, which Joe just reiterated, deserve to be recognized, what stands out about him is his character and his commitment. He is humble, selfish, and always willing to help to give to others. This was evident when he served as a teacher, coach, and athletic director while at Marblehead High School. His student athletes came first, and he would help them in any way he could to be successful. My dad had a profound impact within the town as well. Although he was busy working and raising a family of 8 children, he was a strong advocate of giving back to Marblehead and volunteered in many different capacities in several organizations. He not only was proud of his student athletes, he cared for them. He supported them, whether it was listening to a problem they had, writing a letter of recommendation, or giving them a ride home after practice. Often his practices after school would run late, and for those of you who played for him can attest to that. Unfortunately, the Metco students would pay a price because they would miss the bus home. But my dad didn't want to take them to the MBTA bus. He would drive them into Wonderland so they could catch a train and get home quickly. And at certain times when the weather was really bad, he would drive them directly to their homes. In an interview done on my father when he was an athletic director by a local magazine, it clearly illustrates his humility. He rarely took credit for his success and instead directed the success toward the student athletes. He was quoted as saying, Marblehead may not have too many blue chip athletes, but they know that they must work hard in everything that they set out to do. Then they go and do everything with great intelligence. The student athletes are the ones responsible for my success. And later on in the article, another quote, which made him really the most proud. It was not about wins and losses, he said. I deal with a great number of student athletes. I'm in direct contact with them. I've seen them grow as both athletes and as people. It makes me quite happy and proud that I may have some influence on the student athletes climb up the ladder. The passion my dad exhibited to his profession in education and athletics has impacted many students who have passed through the halls and on the fields of Marblehead High School. I've had the opportunity to experience it firsthand throughout my years of attending Marblehead High. There was no special treatment for anyone, unfortunately, not even for me, because he was fair to everyone and treated everybody with respect and decency, no matter who they were.
I wanted to end my piece with reading a thank you to the community that my father sent to the editor of the local paper at the time when he retired from Marblehead Public Schools. And it illustrates not only the support he received in his job, but also how successful he was with integrating and collaborating with not only members of the Marblehead Public School, but with community groups, parents, teachers, coaches, and student athletes as well. This is quote unquote. As I leave the Marblehead Public School system, I would like to offer thanks and appreciation to the many wonderful people who have supported me during my tenure as teacher, coach, curriculum director, and athletic director. I am so fortunate to have such a rewarding experience. First, I would like to thank the present and past school committee members and the present and past school administrators for their guidance and support. I would like to thank the school faculty, secretaries, head coaches, and assistant coaches. Their commitment and dedication to the students in this town deserve to be recognized. I would like to thank the number of support groups, including the Marblehead Boosters, the Gridiron Club, Friends of Marblehead Hockey, and all the youth organizations and their coaches. Our school system and athletic programs are enhanced by their support. I would like to thank the parents of our student athletes who've been supportive of all the athletic programs. I would also like to thank our student athletes who have excelled both in the classroom and on the athletic fields. Their competitiveness, dedication, and sportsmanship is evident. I am very proud of the high percentage of Marblehead High School students who continue on to college. Lastly, I would like to thank the Marblehead community for the support you have given me and to our student athletes. I ask for your continued support of our excellent school system, and I hope you will continue to support my successor in the athletic programs in the Marblehead Public School system. As I mentioned earlier, our father was so proud to be able to work for the Marblehead Public Schools as a teacher, coach, and athletic director, and he was grateful for the support that he received from so many people. And most importantly, he was so proud of the student athletes that he had the honor to teach, coach, and mentor.
I'll just finish up with saying, my dad is one of the most unselfish people I know. A little biased there, but he's always looking to help others, deflecting any credit or recognition and wishing the best for everyone. Even today, at age 89, he still volunteers his time. He's active with the Dollars for Scholars, the Council on Aging, and with the Star of the Sea Church. My dad has had a tremendous impact on the town of Marblehead, Marblehead Public Schools, and Marblehead Athletics. As I previously mentioned, his legacy clearly speaks for itself. We look forward to celebrating my father's commitment and contributions to Marblehead High School over the course of his 30+ years, which is why we're requesting his name be placed on the Marblehead High School Athletic Complex, along with the dedication plaque inside the entrance. We truly appreciate both of your time and considerations.
Thank you. Thank you. Did you have anyone else who's going to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
We're gonna have
Take a
Mark
couple.
Shapiro and Mark Tarn
Okay.
come up and speak.
Speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Shapiro, Marblehead High School class of 72. I first tried out for varsity football my junior year at MHS, 1970, which just so happened to be Coach Kulovich inaugural season guiding the Magicians. I use the verb guide with great respect and admiration, as in guiding light, as in a teacher or coach lighting the path. Of those, we've had many good ones, some great ones, and perhaps a few exceptional ones. However, I'm willing to bet hardly a one compares to Mr. Kulovich. He was born a natural mentor and pillar, in and out of the classroom, on and off the playing field, and such a man of faith. My teenage compatriots and I used to joke that Coach was not real. How could someone lead such an exemplary life? He proved us wrong then and continues to do so now. We remain in awe. One doesn't have too many opportunities to start at the top with the same remarkable individual, undertaking a new sport and simultaneously witnessing firsthand and soaking in the true meaning of class and dignity. Well, I did, and I consider it a lifetime gift. It took me forever being comfortable calling him Alex. And if you can hear me now, isn't that right, Coach? What can be a more fitting tribute than this town naming part of a place of learning and growing that's unmovable, unshakable, and will be everlasting for his family, his colleagues, his former players, and his entire community. Alex is an individual all should aspire to be. Believe me, Tom, what an honor to be asked to say a few words about your dad. Alex, so many people love you and are proud of your zillion accomplishments. I take liberty speaking for the whole Kulovich family and for all those lives you've touched along the way. It is we who hit the jackpot. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak with all of you this evening. My name is Mark Tommy, and I reside at 53 Maverick Street in Marblehead. I am a former educator, former varsity coach, and former director of athletics at Marblehead High School. I have been very much involved in the MHS athletic program and school community for the last quarter of century. Additionally, I have 42 years experience as a high school, as a prep school, as a college coach, educator, and athletic administrator. 54 years ago, as a middle school student athlete in Lynn, I became very well aware of an outstanding gentleman from Marblehead by the name of Alex Kulovich. For a multitude of people like me, who have successfully climbed the educational ladder as teachers, coaches, and administrators, our individual and collective successes have all been built on the broad shoulders of outstanding role models like Alex Kulovich. I have had the great fortune to directly coach 5 of Alex's grandsons at MHS, and I've been lucky enough to serve as an athletic administrator to 9 of his grandchildren. In 2014, as an 80-year-old retiree, 80-year-old retiree, Alex selflessly and enthusiastically came back to serve as acting athletic director while I was recovering sudden cardiac arrest and multiple open heart surgeries. Alex is my and our role model as an athletic director. Alex is my and our role model as a classroom teacher. Alex is my and our role model as a high school coach. Alex is my and our role model as a husband. Alex is my and our role model as a father. And there's definitely no doubt that Alex is our ultimate role model as a grandfather. I can only echo what has been said here by others before me tonight, and I cannot think of a more fitting and appropriate way to honor a man who has given so much to the Marblehead community. I truly hope that you will seriously consider and enthusiastically approve this naming opportunity on behalf of Alex and his family. Thank you all so very much for listening. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sure.
Joan Rosenthal, 40 Bartlett Street, Marblehead. Mr. Kulovich, and who will always be Mr. Kulovich, and my husband, Steve, who will refer to Mr. Kulovich as Coach Kulovich, is the reason why 25 years ago I said we knew of it. And it all goes back to the fact that I took a class called State and Local Government. And he required, it was a civic class, and he required that we all attended town meeting. And we sat on the stage in the back. At that time, there was no high school where we sit right now. And there was an older member in the community who stood up, whose name won't be mentioned, but the full vote will be, and stood up and said, we will never have a new high school in this town because it was to have bologna sandwiches at the old high school. It's good enough. We don't need a new one. First school committee meeting that I attended as an elected official, I said that same scenario. And I said, it's time. We have an opportunity. And this building was built. But that's not about Mr. Kulovich. That class exemplified what he taught. We taught about community, responsibility, and privilege to live in this town. And those are the three key words to everything I have done in my life. And I turned to my husband on that stage and I said, if I ever have the opportunity and the privilege to live in this town as an adult, I'm going to run this school committee. And that is the reason I did it. And that's because of the three words: community, responsibility of every member of this town, and a privilege to be in this town. And I strongly urge you to give that recognition to Mr. Kulovich. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Was there anyone else who was going to speak? All right, well, thank you very much, first of all, for coming forward with the request. I won't add on to the accolades, which I could. I can stand here, I've known Mr. Kulovich my whole life and through the school, through the church, and I really appreciate you coming forward and asking for this and making this request. I did share the policy with the school committee. We do have a policy, just so everyone knows, it's our policy FF, which is the naming of new facilities and spaces. It does talk about naming existing facilities. It's a bit of a page here, but I will say, I'm going to read a couple things here. It says that the submission of a name for a school space may be made by any resident or by the superintendent in writing, which it should be made to the school committee chairperson. The written request should specify the intent of the requester and the reasons why this particular name would fit the facility, which I think we've certainly heard here. And then it says at the end, following the submission of a naming request, the school committee chairperson will specify a consideration period that allows for public comment, following which the committee will deliberate and vote on the name. So I think what makes sense, we had the request, which we really appreciate, and I'm going to ask that we consider voting this at a future meeting. I'm going to suggest our next meeting. If that is the will of the committee, we can think about that. I think in the meantime, we would invite anybody from the community that wants to email us, call, what have you. We're, certainly open to, hearing obviously from the community. I have a feeling we will get some folks reaching out to us, and then we will entertain this vote likely at the next meeting. So I'll be back in touch with you. Okay. There should be, I think, samples of what the suggested lettering would look like in the plaque. Everyone should have that. Press, you guys should get copies of that, so that maybe that can go in the press as well. And we'll talk about the next steps. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you coming forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. And also thanks to Mrs. Cole. I can't forget her. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to move us on in our agenda to the public hearing. So I think I need to take a motion to close our open session. No. Motion to open the hearing. A motion to open the hearing for the budget hearing. So I'll do. Close the meeting and. Don't close. So I'm sorry, it was Sarah? Sarah was first and seconded? Al, okay. I'll do a roll call. Al, what?
In favor.
Brian Oda? Sarah Fox? In favor. Allison, in favor. Jen Schaffer in favor. Five. Thank you all for coming. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. Go ahead. 5-0. So we're gonna now open our budget hearing. So, just for the folks that are here and online, our last school committee meeting, we had a budget workshop where we had initial presentation of our proposed school budget from the superintendent. Is everything okay?
Yeah, I was just gonna have. Frank,
Okay.
presentation up.
We had a presentation for his superintendent's initial proposal, having worked through that with the budget subcommittee. We had some good discussion. There's been some discussion with individual members and the superintendent since then. And tonight is an opportunity for the superintendent to present proposed budget as it is, as it were. And for the community to provide feedback on this proposal. So that's what this hearing is for. So we will go forward with the presentation. I don't know how many slides there are. Is it
Not many, like 7 or 8.
number of slides? And then we will welcome anyone from the public to come up and speak, make comments, ask questions, talk about what you think, you like, what you don't like. And we also, for folks online as well. What I would probably do is go back, and depending on how many folks we have, I tend to try to go back and forth. So we give a handful of folks here in person, and then we'll go to online and then back and forth. So not one group is favored over another. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Superintendent Robidoux.
Thank you, Schaffner. I appreciate that. So good evening. We're here to hear the budget superintendent's FY 26 proposed budget. On February 13th, we presented the proposed FY 26 school district budget. We shared the overarching goals of the budget, the requested funding, and how we arrived at the numbers. It's been posted online since that night for public consumption. It was a collaborative process for which I'm extremely proud, especially given the fact that 60% of our administrative team were not employed in Marblehead prior to July 1. After presenting our budget, I did some reflection, and I felt that there were several areas for which I could have presented information in a clearer fashion, that's what I'm going to do tonight. In tonight's brief presentation, I believe that I've encapsulated the areas for which I may have fallen a bit short on the 13th, and I'm confident that as I go through the slides, that the process we followed and how we arrived at a level service budget will come into sharper focus. So thank you, Frank. The first slide, just myself, Mike Pefferling, Julie Ferrer, and Lisa Marie Ippolito, who were instrumental in creating the budget. We can go to the next slide, Frank. That'd be great.
Can I interrupt for 1 second, John? I'm sorry. I wanted to mention, I know there was someone brought to my attention was looking for the closed caption. So I actually went with a live stream, which I had been live streamed. The live stream got shut off, so we recorded, but I moved to live stream. So we're now live stream, and I did enable closed caption. So I'm not able to respond in the answer. I can't
Take care of that.
Oh, you can? Okay. So I think it's, I
I
just
believe
wondered
so.
if she'll answer back, that she's able to see it, because I did.
She may need to view it on the live stream
Yeah.
platform versus this platform, for the closed captioning to come through.
Which I think you would go live stream on the
YouTube channel,
YouTube channel. So if you go to the
Yeah.
YouTube channel, it'll be on live.
and she can also rewind. She needs to catch
Okay.
up.
So right now, you're saying she should get that
On live stream, on
on
YouTube.
live,
And
okay.
I should have been able to, so if you can talk to her, if it's not there, tell her to come back and I'll try to figure it out. I think I've got it closed caption in English, so sorry about that, folks. Just want to make sure everyone has accessibility.
That's okay. Frank, can you go to the next slide, please? So our fiscal year FY 26 proposed budget, we've requested what I consider a fiscally responsible budget, which is level services of $49,120,285. This represents an increase of $2,361,174, or 5.05% over our current operational budget of $46,759,111. These are the same numbers that we discussed last meeting. I thought I'd share them again. Next slide, Frank. So our FY 26 budget / operational goals. These are some of the things I felt I needed to enhance a little bit, so I wanted to share, these next few slides. I think they're important to share. We developed a fiscally responsible level services budget incorporating feedback and input from administrative stakeholders, providing a clear understanding of what is required to educate Marblehead students. We ensure all students have appropriate staffing and resources in place to meet the needs of all learners. We utilize individual school improvement plans to align fiscally and operationally with the what we currently have in place, which is the district plan for success. I'm in the process of creating the future district improvement plans that we'll talk more about that. And that plan is going to be much more robust than it currently sits. But all of our school improvement plans, fiscally and operationally, will align with the current district plan for success. I thought that was important to share. We collaborate and clearly communicate our goals with staff, parents, and community stakeholders. Provide a budget based upon data-informed decisions that focuses on academic rigor and high student achievement. Next slide, please. 26 budget process, collecting and reviewing data, which informs utilization of staff. This data will be used to determine efficiencies as we move through 25-26 school year into the 26-27 school year. We review, there's a review of our vacant positions to ensure we are working diligently to fill with permanent employees and or to determine the need for reallocation or discontinuation of positions. We currently have, there's one position that's open outside of all the ESY, the extended school year positions, and the coaching positions that are currently posted. And that's for an HR director. All the other positions are filled at this moment. Addition of staff within this level services budget requires reduction of other staffing for zero net gain. So for instance, if we're looking for a position or two positions, we made sure the principal said, well, where are you going to get that position from? So that we can make that happen. So we weren't adding staff to this budget. So that's where the zero net gain comes from. We moved the custodial positions. They were all outlined in the central administration line item. So it looked like it was very escalated in that area of the budget. Mike definitely did a nice job of moving those to the schools within which they work. So it spread the that actually line item to where they needed to be. We work to maximize staffing and resources to ensure rigor and student achievement are our priority within the backdrop of social emotional learning. Next slide, please. Our budget assumptions for FY 26 during FY 26 budget development. The following assumptions were made with regard to salaries, supplies, contracted services, utilities, curriculum, and special education out of district obligations. We increased all salary steps / lanes as indicated by our settled collective bargaining agreements for FY 26, which is the school year 25-26. We increased all non-represented employees by 2% cost of living adjustment. We increased supply and contracted services line by 2%, unless they're otherwise specified. So there was a little bit of adjustment, but what we did was we made sure the principals, directors, and department heads were permitted to increase or decrease individual lines as long as they did not exceed the 2% of their overall allocation. We increased utilities by 4%, knowing what we know about the high costs of all the utilities, electric, gas, etc. We indicated that $200,000 investment in curriculum refresh cycle was necessary, so we added that. And then there was an increase in special education out of district tuitions and transportation to align with the known expenses and DESE approved increases for all of our budget assumptions as we created the budget. A level services budget made possible. So based upon ongoing collaboration, the town accountant, the town administrator, finance committee, and select board have indicated the town will provide a funding increase of $2,361,174, which will allow the district to ensure provision of appropriate staffing and resources to meet our students' need or provide high caliber education for the 25-26 school year within a level services budget. I know that had been in question, and I thought it would be helpful to kind of further explain that, how we were able to create a level services budget. It was through a lot of collaboration, communication, conversations with the town, and what they were able to do to help us get to where we needed to. The FY 27 and 28 budget consideration. So I mentioned the CBA, the settled contract a moment ago. And so the contractual obligations for the FY 27 and 28 are outlined here. For the FY 27, there will be a 3% increase in salaries. and FY 28 there's a 3.5% increase, which will drive much of this discussion as we move forward. And will likely result in staff reductions and or the need for a Proposition 2.5 override in order to meet those fiscal year obligations. So I just want to repeat that again, FY 27 3% increase based upon contractual obligations. FY 28 is a 3.5% increase based upon contractual obligations. And when we get to those discussions, we're gonna have to look long and hard at staffing, gonna look long and hard at with the town and the collaboration and determine early on whether or not there will be a Proposition 2.5 override necessary. So those are conversations we'll continue to have. We continue to review and revisioning of special education programming to assist with staffing efficiencies, resource allocation, and reduction in the need for out-of-district programming for students. So Lisa Marie and Victoria Ryan have done a really nice job of really looking at where our special needs students are, what the programming needs are, what staffing reallocations and resource reallocations we can do to make sure that the staffing is necessary to provide students what they need to meet the individual educational, social, emotional needs. And what we're hoping is as we move forward and start shoring up some of that special ed programming, it will allow us to start bringing some of our out-of-district students back into programs in district where we can be educated with our like age peers, which is always the what we want to do in any school district. And then especially here in Marblehead, I think it'd be very important. It's my philosophy to try to educate all students with their like age peers when and where applicable and when and where we're able to do that. So that's a really big push that we're doing across the district. And I thought it was helpful to share that information. That's really one of our biggest budget drivers and consideration as we move forward. And then the last slide is our capital improvement request. We shared this last time. We broke it down a little bit. So the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 were the priority items. So Glover's cafeteria HVAC, Glover playground, reupholstering the pack seating and painting the pack, special education 70 van, which is a rolling stock. You can see the numbers on the side. Those are what we requested from the town for the warrant. And then we talked a little bit about a feasibility study. We're looking at potentially seeing if it's feasible for us to operate an early childhood center and or other use for Evelyn School. Obviously we talked about the Coughlin School recently, and we want to make sure that the Evelyn School, if it's feasible for us to utilize in another way for the school district, we want to make sure we're looking at that now so we can plan for the future. That $125,000 is an estimated cost. We have to do our due diligence in securing that number, but I feel pretty confident that we'll land. And then the final thing is the debt exclusion for the roof project here at the high school, which has been we've talked about this at length in other forum, but it's $8,610,602 in addition to the current 5.3 million that was already allocated for the roof project. And that roof project is to make sure that any of the areas of the roof that are leaking, it all has to be replaced, inclusive of the HVAC system. We've had this conversation many times. We've had it facility subcommittee meetings and some school committee meetings, and that's something that it's on the docket. It needs to get done. So we're hoping to move forward in that regard. I think that's all I have.
The copy of the actual budget online.
It was posted the day after last meeting. Yes.
So if anybody wants to actually take a look at the actual budget, that is on.
Yeah. So the whole PowerPoint that we did in conjunction with the principals is on there, and the whole budget workbook is also on. It's been on there since it's posted on Valentine's Day, I believe. Yep.
So at this point, I'd like to open it up to the public. If anyone would like to make any comments or questions or anything else. Let's start with folks here in person. Lee? Are you coming up to as a reporter or as a resident? Oh, okay.
So sit here.
Yes,
Name it,
please.
right?
Yeah, name it. I just.
Westport Lane, Mark. Interested to hear Superintendent Robidoux talk about starting to look ahead at the FY 27 budget and a potential override, and you're saying we'll start to look at that sooner than later. When do you think those discussions will begin? And do you have any sense at this point of what kind of an override, the amount that you?
So what I would say is, my priority right now is to get this budget voted on and passed and through town meeting, and then probably the day after the town meeting, we'll start having those conversations in earnest, to be honest with you.
Really nice.
I mean, we have to start planning appropriately. And start looking at what is, because we know what the obligations are, right? It's outlined in the contract, 23%. So we can start looking at those kinds of things. We can start looking at the staffing ratios, have a better idea from Lisa Marie and Polito in the Student Services Office, where we'll be at that point in terms of all the things I talked about, special education wise. I don't have that information right now, and I don't want to speculate. I don't want to throw out any numbers or whatever. I mean, we're gonna work as diligently as we can, to create as many efficiencies as we can, to move forward, so we can educate our students. That's the primary focus.
So just to confirm, the whatever override you asked for in FY 27 would be in addition to the $8 here for 15 years capital debt exclusion that you're asking for this.
So what I would say is, we're not there yet, so that's why I said likely.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't be asking for the override. That's a conversation with the committee and the public. And we don't know that we're there yet, so we may be able to manage this budget with efficiencies and not need an override. We may need to override in the efficiencies. It's to be determined. We're very far. We're in February right now.
Right.
So, it's a little too early to make those speculations. I think I would be remiss in doing that.
Great, and there were no changes from the budget from the last meeting. Right, good with what?
Yes.
The only thing I've mentioned to Lee, just, and this is good for everyone to know, which, inside baseball here, we're kind of understand kind of the cadence of this, but from a sort of scheduling or calendar timeline, as we get into budget season, which we're in right now, one of the things we're dependent on is on the town side between the finance director and the finance department and the finance committee. We work in conjunction with them to determine what the projected revenues would be. So we would be, we work forward on our FY 27 budget as we get into next school year. But we also work with the town and they have to do their projections. And that's usually right around January, February time.
That's where you found out this year, for instance, that you got your 2-point-something million.
Right.
Yeah. That, I wanted to point that out, that, until we had that state of the town, we didn't know that there was $2 million of, additional funding available by just, well, no, the additional money is available simply by the treasurer moving our accounts out of the existing bank in getting a higher yield on the interest. So what we were told at the projections was it December 11th, I want to say. The December 11th projection, I don't know if I'm getting that date right, but there were projections that were given the first round at the select board meeting. They greatly improved by the state of the town. Correct. Well, you're looking at you, Mom. Oh, yes, the answer to that is yes. There was essentially $2 million that was not planned on being available for the FY 26 budget.
Gotcha. Okay,
That wasn't all to the schools, that was. split with the-
Yes, but that's a big deal.
We didn't get an additional 2 million on top of what they originally
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else in here? Okay, Diane, welcome. And then Erin, I'll get to you right after. I got Diane Gore and then I'll jump to you, Erin.
Diane Guerra, 24 Nicholson Street, and also a Glover teacher. This question is for the superintendent. I saw there was 120,000 requested for new structure for the playground at Glover. Do you know what that structure would be?
Mike, do you have any further information on that? This is one of those things where it needs to be replaced. And we started looking at that, but Mike may have a little bit better information on that.
So you're saying our structure right now needs to be replaced?
So in the capital approval from last year, there was a rubber surface
Yes.
that was funded. And it was also understood that there was a need for a replacement playground. I understand you have 2 playgrounds over there. I'm not familiar enough to know exactly which one. But we did price out a playground structure that was more appropriate for the age level of the students that are there. And That number came in a little lower than 120, but we know we need to have it installed. And we felt, why would you pour a rubber surface, rip out the playground that's there to put a new one in after you just put in a rubber surface? It's almost like, why would you put a roof on a building and then rip the, the AC off and put AC back on? We're trying to get ahead of it right now. So the idea is if it's bundled with all of the town meeting warrants or capital plans, it's not an individual debt exclusion. It's just part of the town's capital plan. If that gets approved as a bundle, then we would do a structure and the poured surface in conjunction at the same time. But there's more discussions to be had. Again, this is, kind of get the funding in place, and then sure we'll have meetings with the community, with the school, the staff, the principal, to identify what features of a playground are most appropriate for that school age.
Okay, I just want to give you a little in history. I was on the Glover School Building Committee. And the first time we went to the town for the override, it did not pass for $29 million. We had to cut another $5 million out of that. So we actually did not have enough money to build a proper playground. So I'm not sure if a piece needs to be replaced, but we are in need of additional structure, something. And I highly recommend that you consult with the teachers that work there before you make a final decision.
I appreciate that, certainly.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move to Erin Noonan. Erin's on Zoom. Erin, you should be able to speak now.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi.
Hey, good evening, members of the school committee and our superintendent, Robideau. My name's Erin Noonan. I'm the parent of 3 students in the district, 2 of whom have diagnosed language-based dyslexia, learning disabilities. My comments relate to the funding in next year's level funded budget for our language-based programming and the hope that the Student Services Director, Ms. Ippolito's intention to overhaul and improve in this area is accounted for, as well as Superintendent Robideau's district improvement plan and special education review that he just spoke of. According to NIH, dyslexia and other language-based learning disabilities affect 15 to 20% of the population. This is widely accepted as the rate of prevalence of dyslexia. In fact, dyslexia is the most common neurocognitive disorder, and children with dyslexia make up 80% of all of those with learning disabilities. What this means is that 1 in 5 students struggle with some degree of language-based learning difficulties. If you think about a class of 20 students, that's 4 students. You could also think about the 188 students that are currently enrolled in Marblehead 2nd grade. Therefore, we can assume that roughly 38 students in 2nd grade could be struggling with dyslexia and related language-based learning difficulties. It would be interesting to know if Marblehead Public Schools is catching and recognizing students to this degree of what we know is the rate of prevalence. Are we recognizing somewhere between 380 and 500 students, which is 15 to 20% of our total population, as requiring differentiated instruction? This would be a nice place to start to look at the problem, especially when you consider we fall 11% below the state average for student growth in ELA, according to the recent DESE report card that was sent out to me by the high school principal. And I was encouraged to read in the newsletter from Student Services Director, Ms. Ippolito, that the district is undertaking a comprehensive revamp of its language-based programming, including enhancements to the curriculum and professional development. On behalf of the 1 in 5 students affected, I applaud this effort. It is widely acknowledged that our language-based programming has room for improvement. When you grasp the prevalence of reading disabilities among the student population, it is a worthy investment of time, energy, and funding. These approximately 20% of students require a different instructional approach compared to their peers due to their difficulty processing phonemic sounds and relating them to letters on the page. They need an Orton-Gillingham method of explicit phonics instruction, multisensory learning, systematic and highly structured approach, and frequent repetition and practice, and sometimes assistive technology. A standard master's in education program generally does not cover specific knowledge or training related to dyslexia. How many teachers do we have with specialized training in Orton-Gillingham and dyslexia-related methods? I believe it's not enough. And my question and hope is that the funding to address these deficiencies in our language-based programs is reflected in this FY25 budget. And furthermore, I believe that it would be valuable for our student services director to have the opportunity to speak about her efforts and the plan changes at a future school committee meeting. Thank you.
I can just,
Thank you, Erin.
so I can just say thank you for that input. I think a lot of the conversations that I had with obviously Ippolito are in regards to language-based classroom and language-based programming for all the reasons you just mentioned, Ms. Newman. So I'm very confident that that's one of the areas of focus, along with our therapeutic programs and our ABA programs, all of which are very important. I think, you know, as far as staffing and training for staff, that's also a priority. That's something that Ms. Ippolito and I have discussed at length, going into next school year's budget and the following school year's budget. All those areas are priorities, and a language-based program being one of them. I think it's my understanding that previously our language-based programs were really robust here in Marblehead. They became less robust, and a lot of students ended up going to programming outside of the district. And I want to work as hard as I can with the Student Services Office to bring those students back again, like I said at the beginning, to be educated with their like age peers. And we will do that when we know that our program is robust and is appropriate to bring those students back, which I'm hoping is within, you know, it's a planful year and a half kind of process. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but because we want to do it right, we want to do it appropriately for all the reasons you just mentioned, Ms. Newman. So thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you. I appreciate that thoughtful answer. And I do feel that, you know, we have, what appears to me, a team and administration in place now that with our finance director, our student services director, and superintendent, that just may be up to the task of taking this on.
And I just, Lisa Marie is online. I don't know, if Lisa, did you want to speak to that at all, or just when you have an opportunity? Hang on, yes, she's
on. Yeah, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, Ms. Noonan, thank you very much for those kind words from myself and my department. We've been working extremely hard since we started in July with our staff and our team chairs throughout the district. I'd be more than happy to do a presentation, but I also want to let our community know that as we're enhancing the various programs, the language-based therapeutic and our ABA program, we're going to be having parent open houses where we're going to be inviting parents in so we can like dig right in the learning space to talk about, you know, the changes that have been made, the things that stayed the same that are consistent and great, and highlighting the amazing staff that we have. In terms of professional development, there are 6 of us actually starting Orton Gillingham training next week. On top of, I don't have the number off the top of my head because I'm not at my desk, on top of those that are already certified Orton Gillingham or Wilson trained staff. So we'll continue to grow that capacity. As like you said, it is important to have the right curriculum tools and the right staffing in those different program environments.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa Marie.
You're welcome.
And I do believe that we had talked about having later in the spring, kind of a robust presentation.
Yes, yeah, that's the plan is.
That's been a major focus.
Yep, and I think the plan is once we know kind of more specifically about the program enhancements, Lisa Marie and her team will come and share that.
Thank you. Okay, I do not see any other hands up online. If somebody online on Zoom would like to make a comment or speak, you should have a small icon at the bottom that says raise hand. Would you click on that? Will give us a little hand there knowing that you would like to speak. So hopefully you can see that and you can do that. Is there anyone here at the library that would like to speak from the public?
Except one clarification. No one else is.
Yeah, no, I don't see anybody else.
Okay, cool, thanks.
So Mike, I just wanted to make sure, you had
in this slide, it says that you found $2.3 million, or the town found this money, and not found it, but it's from the investments. And do the schools get the 2.3, or you guys get half of that?
So I'm gonna go back to like November timeframe when we had original conversations with Town Administrator Thatcher. Keiser, I'm sorry, Keiser. Originally, I think the town's revenues, and I'm just gonna put numbers out there, were somewhere around 2.4 million, which would be split equally between the town and the schools. So the schools were expecting to get about 1.2 million. I think when they closed out free cash, they realized that the school department had returned approximately $1 million at the end of fiscal year 23. That actually got pushed into 24 and got certified at the end of fiscal year 24. And I believe there was some other funds that became available. So they said, you know, we can take that money that was returned, and I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it equated to about an additional $2 million, $2.5 million.
So that's-
And then they further split that between the town and the school. So the school we were expecting at 1.2, we're actually getting 2.3. The town was probably expecting to get 1.2. My assumption is that they're probably getting 2.3 also, but I can't speak to the town side.
Just specifically for the schools.
Yes.
There is, yes.
And I just want to follow on with what you just said. So there was $1 million left over in the FY25 school budget that you gave back to the town. Is that what you said?
From what I understand, there were encumbrances that were made. And when Miss Benjamin arrived in town, she said those encumbrances are not acceptable to move into the next year. So with the school department had anticipated to spend at the end of fiscal year 23 in June of 23, those purchases, I believe, were made, but they were not made through the encumbered funds from FY23. They were made with FY24 funds. I wasn't here, but I've heard. But that money at the end of 23 ended up in free cash and was recently certified. So that's where that money recently became available.
And just for the lay people, what's encumbered mean?
So encumbrance means we put it on a purchase order. We send a purchase order to a vendor or multiple vendors. And we say, we intend to purchase this. You ship it. We will pay when it arrives. By mass law, we cannot pay in advance.
Okay.
So we have to put it on a purchase order, which is a binding obligation. Putting it on a purchase order is another word for encumbering.
And last question is for you, John, and maybe for Ms. Alito. When you're talking about building these language-based special education programs that will keep so many of our kids in the district, I think Aaron kind of hinted at it, but what % increase of the budget is going to building that program?
So initially, and again, I can't speak specifically to that yet because we need to look at the numbers. We need to look at how many kids are still out of district, how many kids could recently come back. But what we look to do is, it's not necessarily all sorts of addition stuff. It's what do we have in district right now? How do we initially look at how do we consolidate those programs? So for instance, if there's 3 language-based classrooms in one school, and we can make that 2 language-based classrooms and reallocate the staff, and make sure they have the resources there, then that's how you can build better capacity, right? So those are things we look at first and foremost, and then we look at the numbers, how many kiddos in a certain catchment area might be out of district. When does it appropriate to come back? So that's a process, right? And we have to have conversations with parents, have conversations with the schools that they're in, with that program that you have, when's it appropriate, what points of the school year do you come back? Usually at a natural break, so it's not just decide on October 12th they're coming back. It's like a holiday break or beginning of the school year. So there's all those conversations. So I won't have those actual numbers until we do that exercise after we get into the next school year. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to point out too that if you look back to when we were going through the hiring process last year for the superintendent and Ms. Marie Ippolito, some primary things we looked at was their track record and their ability where they were with bringing students that were out of district, improving their in-district programs and allowing those students to come back. Because it's always better for our students, but that brings the funding with them as well that you can then reinvest. So you might not be seeing an increase in the special education allocation, but instead of saying, sending $70,000 to an outplacement, you're now investing in your staff in-house. And when we went through that hiring process, that was something we talked about in public meetings. That was, what they made these two candidates very attractive. They had a proven track record with this. If we look at a presentation we did about a month or so ago, about how MCAS results did, with students in this risk group. Ms. Ippolito's past district was the top of the chart. So these were all things that we looked at, and now we're seeing those benefits reap from Marblehead.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It's, you know, I have myself in the background, stuff like that. So I appreciate you sharing that because it is important to know. I have a very large background in special education. You know, that's part of why we're moving direction on the thing. So I'm actually really excited about it.
Okay. Again, anyone online? Oh, Paul. Go ahead, Paul. You should be able to speak now. You should be unmuted.
Now, I'm good.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. Okay, Paul Baker, Overlook Road, Marblehead. Thanks for doing this. Appreciate it. My question is regarding the Everlith School. Mr. Robideau mentioned that in 27 and 28, we're looking at 3 million plus for an override, I think, to cover the teacher contracts. Where do you envision money coming from to turn the Everlith into an early learning center?
So, I'm sorry, was that your only question?
Well, yeah, where's that money going to come from, given that Everlith is deemed not usable as a school anymore? Surely the money to make that into a a worthy setting for teaching is going to be in the millions. So we must be talking more of an override than 3 million per year to cover that.
Yeah, so firstly, I didn't say we had 3 million, I said we had a 3% increase, so that doesn't necessarily mean $3 million, it's a 3% increase in FY 27 for the contractual obligations and 3.5% increase for contractual obligations in 2028. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. The discussion about Everlith and what it may be used for, potentially an early childhood center, is the reason for requesting the feasibility study money. So what has to happen first and foremost before you do any kind of major project renovation, building thing, you have to do a feasibility study to make sure that it's feasible, right? So you have to spend some money up front to determine what can and can't be done. And at that point, the feasibility study would say, this is what can be done. Refurbish of the building or reno the building, knock it down, build a new building. That's why we do a feasibility study. So then that gives us accurate information so that we can then start having conversations about next steps. That's not in this fiscal budget discussion. This is we're planning for this so that we can plan down the road. As we've seen with a lot of other building projects, you have to go through the feasibility studies, you have to go through the bid process, you have to get vendors in place. It's any kind of major project is generally a several year process. So we want to start that now, so we don't have to wait 3, 4, 5 years before we start the process. I don't know if that helps clarify. I mean, maybe I wasn't clear when I mentioned it earlier.
No, okay, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Again,
A couple of people that walked in. I don't know if anybody else.
yeah, so I was just gonna say, anyone here in the library would like to come forward? And again, or anyone online, you just need to press your raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Okay. One more going. All right, so I'm gonna take a motion to close the public hearing. So moved. Sarah?
Second.
Awesome, and I'll do a roll call. Al Williams?
In favor?
Ryan Odell?
In favor.
Sarah Fox? In favor. Allison Taylor? In favor. Jen Schaffner in favor, 5 to 0 to close the budget hearing. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for your participation. Great questions. Appreciate it. Thank you, John, for the presentation. Mike and Lisa Marie. And Julia, who's out there? Okay, so let's move on to opening business continued, commendations.
But, I just want to congratulate the boys hockey team. They won last night and they're moving on. Tomorrow night, I believe, the 28th, at 7 PM at the Salem State Arena. I know normally our student representative would talk about these things, so I just thought I'd mention that, but also the St. Lambert's Hockey Tournament, I think it's the 60th year. And kiddos from Marblehead went up there in the giant snowstorm, not this past weekend, the weekend before. So I think it was the first weekend of February break, if you will. And you know, had an amazing time, some unprecedented weather, I'm told, and terrible driving conditions. But everybody had a wonderful time and made it back safe, which is important. And our village school is putting on the play of a Lion King Jr. next weekend. So March 6th, 7th, and 8th are the dates. The 6th is, wrote down the times. The 6th at 6 PM, Friday at 6 PM, Saturday at 2 PM, and Saturday at 6 PM. I just want to wish them all really good luck. I'm sure they'll be tonight this weekend. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I think we're going John Thunder.
No, that's okay. That's-
The high
oh, my-
school has one.
No, anyone mentioned, I just take it out. No.
There's one tonight at the high school they're putting on that Ella, our student representative is performing. I wanted to make a commendation to our custodial staff, and our maintenance crews during the last few hellish weeks of weather that we've had, particularly the day where everything melted and then froze. Anywhere you drove in town, people's sidewalks, their driveways, everything was a complete sheet of ice, you know, thick enough to sit on, except for our buildings. I have to say, our buildings were super clear, our sidewalks were super clear, they glowed with whatever the blue material was. But they did a really, really good job about making sure their fellow colleagues in the staff side and the students could get in and out of the building safely. So I just want to commend them for everything they did, because you know, it's not great weather to be out working it, and they did a wonderful job. Anything more?
Can I do one nomination real quick? I'd like to commend Kristen Morello, Assistant Finance Director. She won't take credit, but she's been super important, super helpful, you know, through the budget process, but since the budget process, for those that don't know, we technically don't have an HR department right now. And she's really stepped up in a huge way, helping our assistant, our executive assistant, Lisa Demier, with all things that are HR right now. And she's been really doing a super job of that. She's been helping to train our new payroll coordinator. She's being like a little bit of everything. She's working really well with the folks upstairs on the town side. She's working well with Mike. And I just want to take a moment to thank her, because, you know, sometimes it's a thankless job, and you want to make public spectacle of that.
Thank you.
Sure.
And she does it with a really positive,
Great.
that is high energy.
I'm telling you, would not have gotten this budget pulled together without. She took care of everything else on the back burner, or not, on the front burner, everything that was burning on the other side of the house, she was taking care of that. While I was focused on this, so she just held us up, and we're in the middle of a implementation, so she has been hands-on, 100% invested in that. She's just a rock star.
And I just want to say, thank you to the folks who turned out last night for a community forum. We had a forum last night here at the library, with the policy subcommittee. And we had a great turnout of folks, here and online, and, had some great and robust discussion. There were students here, should be very proud of themselves, as should their parents and our staff and teachers, because they spoke very well and spoke from the heart, and we appreciate that. And so I want to say thank you. I do think there were a couple of bumps along the road there. I think we're all trying to work real hard on civil discourse, and I think it was a good example of it as we go forward predominantly, that we can talk through our differences and work through our differences and recognize people can be heard, all voices can be heard, and then decisions will be made after that. And so I appreciate that.
I think also that, you know, your words and your actions matter. And I think there's some improvement that we can see from
Great.
us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to public comment. So unlike the budget hearing, this is just our regular old run-of-the-mill public comment. So. Hey, Diane.
Planning board. Would like to urge you to approve the request for naming the athletic complex at the Marblehead High School after Alex Kolovich. I've been teaching in Marblehead for over 30 years, and he was the athletic director, very successful. I read all the articles about him and the team that he helped. Also, I had the privilege of working with several of his grandchildren, and knowing Tom, who was the father of the children that I worked with, and his children, I can attest to Alex's character because of the character of Tom and his children. They couldn't be more kind, giving, helpful, hardworking, 100% effort. And I know that that has to come down from the top. So I hope you do approve that request.
Thanks. Appreciate
Thanks so
that.
much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Diane.
Anyone else here? Okay, let me see. Anybody online? Again, just need to click your raise hand button at the bottom and I can call on you. Anybody online? Okay, I don't see anybody. All right, I'm gonna move on then to district update. John,
Hi.
Superintendent Robinson, the formal.
Me again. Thank you. So I have a few things, so I'll try to be quick, but, Sarah stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'm gonna say it again because it's worth repeating. I need to once again thank our maintenance and facilities department for the snow removal and cleanup over the past few weeks. Most of the snowfall has occurred over the weekends, and our crews have worked tirelessly to make sure that our schools are cleared and ready to receive staff and students. That's not always an easy task, and I want to recognize their efforts. Now, I do want to also recognize, I know, we do a really good job of clearing everything else. There's always some spots here and there. There have been a couple of folks that, have slipped a little bit. So obviously, even though the weather's 44, 50 degrees out, we have to be diligent about the icy spots on all sides. So anyway, February's been a trying month for all. Flu, COVID, and other illnesses are running rampant here and elsewhere, which creates extra challenges in educating our students consistently. I am hopeful that as the weather gets warmer and we can start opening windows and getting outside more frequently, we'll see a decline in the illnesses that have plagued us. Probably not the best choice of words. So. There have been questions as to the expectations that were in place for both staff and students over the week that was originally February break. So I'm going to take a minute just to kind of share that. I had a lot of input from parents and staff and stuff. So for staff, unless there were extraordinary circumstances for which time was requested from me directly, the expectation was to be in school. Any absence that was granted was unpaid unless staff had personal day or days available. I reported this out, I think it was in the Current at some point, there were 15 teachers who had extraordinary circumstances, ranging from medical procedures, weddings, specific unavoidable situations that I granted permission. Given the aforementioned illnesses, there were staff that ended up being incapacitated in unplanned ways that created more unavoidable absences that were anticipated. We worked with Megan a lot on some, there's been a lot of notifications and stuff going on about how do we address some of those illnesses. As for the expectation for students, the school committee absolved absences from the school for those students whose parents called them out. This was discussed at length at an earlier school committee meeting. It was determined that student absences would not count against them for the 10 makeup days due to the strike. The expectation while in school was to continue with academics while not having any major assessments or new topics being presented so that students not in attendance wouldn't get too far behind. The teaching and learning that occurred was in alignment with our curriculum and allowed for some extra attention for students given the reduction in overall student attendance. I saw this firsthand. I was in many of the schools over the February break. I saw kids that were engaged with smaller numbers in the classroom. I saw it from the high school all the way down to Glover, some good teaching and learning going on. So I just wanted to share that. Last week and the days over the original April break are atypical. And we are doing our best to balance academics and adherence to the curriculum while knowing that many students would and will be not in attendance. I wanted to be clear that none of this is ideal. It is a direct result of the strike and will among other things, cause Marblehead's accountability with the state to be adversely affected. However, we will continue to work towards finishing the school year as strong as possible and work to ensure that the next school year and subsequent school years are focused on increased academic rigor and expected attendance in school by both educators and students, so that we can get back to being the strong district we are capable of. Our pre-K, just a few things I want to share. Our pre-K enrollment is currently down a little bit than what it has been in the previous year. So I want to mention that the registration process is outlined on our district webpage. When you go on there and look, it says pre-K registration / screenings. It had a different title that maybe was confusing the folks, so we switched that a little bit. Any questions that you may have, we direct to our student services office, and I'm confident that we will see numbers rise. But I felt it important to mention that. We did have MSBA, the Massachusetts School Building Authority, in district last Friday and this past Monday. They were here for two separate reasons, two separate crews of folks. So one group came through all the buildings on Friday and Monday. They looked at every single school building. Mike walked them through along with their custodians and stuff. And what they're trying to do is look at all the. It's my understanding they're looking at all the schools in the Commonwealth, trying to create a database of facilities so they can have a better understanding of what the needs are. I think that's the overarching thing, but they came through and you know, everything was looked at from soup to nuts in all the buildings. The second group was at Brown all day on Monday. I met with the team virtually prior to the visit to outline the day, whose purpose was a post-occupancy evaluation. So anytime we build a school, once it's built, it's closed out, we're using it, MSBA will come and do an evaluation. They came in and observed drop-off, pickup, lunch changeovers. They looked at classrooms and other learning environments and went through the facilities like the boilers, mechanics, etc., and inquired as to ways we use Brown in conjunction with our community. This is a typical endeavor after building, a building is built and has been in use for a period of time. A report will be forthcoming, is my understanding. Thanks to Mary Maxwell and staff, along with Mike Piffling, in ensuring that the visit went well. Ms. Rhoda had asked where I am in the process of updating the district's plan for success. I will be doing an update in my evaluation goals at our next meeting, which will encompass the process that I have embarked upon regarding migrating the district plan for success into a much more robust district improvement plan. I can share that it's a multi-step process and that I have completed the initial task of expanding the plan for success, but I would like to take a necessary time at the next meeting to outline the whole process. That's okay. I think this makes more sense. That's okay, Mr. Oder. Wit and Wisdom guided observation took place yesterday, the 26th? No, on the 26th. Yeah, it's just at Village, Glover and Brown. Partaking in the day were our assistant super teacher learning, Julia Ferreira, our principal Scott Williams, Frank Kowalski, and Mary Maxfield, our assistant principal Jenny Emmett Conrad, along with our instructional coaches Angie Graziano, Rebecca Brand, Emily Perez, and Mary LeBlanc. We received stellar feedback on the visit where Wit and Wisdom staff came and observed the program in action. They were highly impressed with our teachers, engagement with students, and our administrative teams. Kudos to Julia and all involved. This is positive student programming in action. We've heard a lot about Wit and Wisdom, and we get some really good feedback, so I'll share that. We talked about the boys hockey, but I'm going to say it again. They won over Blackstone Valley Tech with seconds to spare last night, so a 3-2 win, and they go to round 16 of the division playoffs tomorrow versus Drake at Tingsboro. So congrats to the boys hockey. I didn't get a full athletic update. I know a lot of times the student rep does that, so I apologize. But I celebrate the hockey. And finally, I've been asked a few times to share my overarching leadership philosophy as a backdrop to how I operate as an educational leader and how I intend to lead the district moving forward. This is important to share as people are getting to know me and where my focus lies as we move forward in the process towards hopefully more permanent superintendency. My philosophy is simple: to ensure that all students, staff, and community partners are treated with dignity, respect, and have a sense of belonging as a part of our educational community. I strive to be a collaborative leader who is reflective and allows stakeholders to have a voice at the table, as it's important to running the district successfully. This does not mean that every voice will get what they want. It means that when collaborative decisions need to be made, I try to ensure that pertinent stakeholders have input and are able to provide feedback in the decision-making process. Another important aspect of a collaborative leadership approach is establishing relational trust with students, staff, community partners, and with the school committee. This takes time, but is based on active listening, having an open door policy, establishing clear communication, and ensuring ongoing collaboration is in place. Part of establishing relational trust also includes empowering our administrators to take risks, to make decisions that are in line with our overarching district vision. All of these values and beliefs encapsulate who I am as an educational leader and how I will strive to operate as superintendent here in Marblehead so that our students can be successful in all areas of their education. Thank you.
Yeah. Nice little.
Kitty.
All right, any comments or any questions from Superintendent London? Okay, I'm gonna move on to our consent agenda and. Sorry.
Do you have an update on when the special education review as well as the, anti-Semitism
Yes,
investigation?
I was hoping, and I talked to Ms. Schaffner about this, I was hoping to have both of them for next school committee. Both ran into some slight snags. I talked to Allison Kirker yesterday again. She's working on the full report and she has to finish up on the executive summary, which is what's gonna get shared. So she wants to make sure that her due diligence is done properly, because that's the piece that's gonna get shared. So I don't know that it's gonna be at the next meeting. I'm hoping it is. If not, I'll definitely be at the following meeting. Academic discoveries has been, it's giving me a headache thinking about it. They've been, Lisa Marie and her team have been giving them piles and piles and piles of information and documentation over and over and over again since the inception of this. Asked the same question when we get the report. We're looking at the school committee wants it ASAP. Their response was, we still are waiting on X, Y, and Z, which Lisa Marie has given them 1,000 times. So I don't want to speak for Lisa Marie, but I know she's way more frustrated than I am because she's been living it. But again, I'm hoping if it's not here for the 6th, the meeting on the 6th, it will be here. One way or the other, I'm just gonna.
For the Kirker pageant investigation, she's completed her report and her full report and now is working on.
I can't say for certain that the whole thing's
Okay.
everything, but what she told me yesterday was she's developing the full report and then she's doing, and then she also has to either finish up or complete the executive summary. So, she wants to make sure that there's a couple things. Some of the staff that left, had lawyers, and there's been a lot of legal stuff going back and forth, which really exacerbated the timeline. In addition to not being able to start, so the staff was they had 47 days before the strike, and then so, those 3 weeks were kind of lost to some degree. So it's just taken longer than we're all frustrated by it, but
The scope, if I recall, the scope of the contract, she'll provide both. Correct.
correct. But the problem is what I mean by the full report is gonna have information that can't be shared with the public. It's gonna have very specific personality. So, the executive summary is what we're gonna share. Something that, will be shared at this meeting form. But again, we have to run it by our lawyer too, just make sure whatever gets shared is going to be shared. So when people do public records request the full thing, they're not gonna get anything except for maybe it's gonna look like the Watergate if they're actually gonna request because it will be redacted. So it's useless time, waste of money to do that, to be honest. Just,
I'll follow.
I'm gonna say that out loud just in case anyone was thinking about it.
Yeah, because I have more questions on that. That I'm happy to explore.
Okay. All right, thanks.
That answers your question, I'm sorry. Or someone,
Yes.
okay.
So we're gonna move on to the consent action and agenda items. We have 2 items here, which are our scheduled bills and our meeting minutes of January 9th, 2025 and January 23rd, 2025. And as this is consent agenda item, I can take this as a motion to approve both at the same time. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consented action and agenda items. Moved by Sarah, do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Al Williams. I'm going to do a roll call. Al Williams,
in favor?
Brian Oda,
In favor.
Tara Fox,
In favor.
Allison Taylor.
In favor.
John Schaffner, in favor, 5-0. School committee communication discussion items. The next item on the agenda is the Marblehead High School Program of Studies for the school year 2025-2026. And I don't know if Dr. Paulson gets something
Dr.
around
Paulson
or.
is here.
Oh. Welcome.
Thank you. We were supposed to do this a few weeks ago and we had a snow day, so here we are again. We are entering our scheduling season. And our elective window will open up tomorrow, around 2:30, for students to start to their electives for the school year. So, I had sent a memo with kind of a summary of the changes for the program of studies, and I just want to go over them and answer any questions. The first one is, we are looking to add an additional graduation requirement of financial literacy to the students, starting with the incoming freshman class. We've already started doing college and career planners with the current students, and so this would be effective for the class of 2029. We will not be adding any additional credits required, as we have a bucket of strict credits available for electives that this will be a 1 semester course. We have identified currently 3 courses that we have been running for years. Banking and personal finance, entrepreneurship, and real world skills, which kind of gives some tiers of rigor in those courses that will meet this requirement. I do know that in the future, I believe it's 2 years out, AP is actually looking to bring in a business and personal finance course. So we will continue to look at what's out there and what we can add to offer students with this. But we feel that this is going to be a nice add for students to really equip them for college and career readiness when they leave us. We are removing the Essex Tech After Dark program from the program of studies. This was something that was eliminated last year due to budget cuts. And this current graduating class is the final class to go through that program. We are looking to remove grammar and nature writing courses from English elective, just for the reason that it is never ever run since we put it in. We have not had enrollment in there or the interest to do it. We are also looking, as part of a multi-year rollout, to remove CP2 level for Algebra 1 and Physics General Education course. This is the 3rd year of the elimination of that in those departments. We have already eliminated CP General Ed courses from the English department previously, and social studies also does not have. The 5th is we're looking to change the prerequisite for Art Studio 3. Currently, it's 3 semesters of art to go into that. We're looking to change that to 2. This should increase access and remove potential barriers for students that want to take an upper level art course. And the final one is to add AP photography. So this will expand our AP course offerings. It will provide upper level elective options for students that are interested in expanding their photography skills and interests. Those are our proposed changes. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, comments? Can you explain a little, when I say this, a little bit more about I love that we're gonna do personal finance, because I think that's something that be very beneficial to students. It looks like it primarily is gonna happen through the National Grant Bank in the office downstairs.
No.
Okay.
No, banking and personal finance, the kids go down to there a few times during the semester, but they're predominantly in the classroom.
Okay.
And then there'll be a couple kids that will go down to work. So this would be a separate kind of unit or curriculum that's going to be run in there about finance.
Okay.
So there could be some supplements that they see in the bank, if they're talking about credit scores and things like that,
Okay, so when they go down there, they would be the customer? Learning how, no?
They could be the customer, and they could be working behind the counter.
Because I thought the idea was kind of to teach these kids how to manage their finances.
It is.
So just, can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah.
So this idea, I don't have to take credit for it, but I had asked about this and felt strongly that I had requested the administration to consider this as a requirement. Because I too agree that this is, as much as, writing and reading comprehension and math skills are important in science, literacy, history and social studies. Having a working knowledge of the basics of finance in this complex world that we're in is really important for high school graduate. And so I appreciate this. I do feel, and I was gonna make this comment, that this is great that we're doing this. I do think that as we go forward, there may be some room for increased rigor. Or it could even be 2 semesters. But a year course, or even if it's 1 semester, a more rigorous focus on, and there are plenty of curriculums out there. That we can take a look at, that involve, you know, personal finance, debt, credit, borrowing, tax prep, doing your basically your, you know, adulting of finance, because I think that's important. So I don't know if that helps, but I think. this
Yeah,
is the
that's
first
what I
step.
wanted to, I'm super excited to see it starting to evolve. But I wanted to make sure that our end goal is that these kids leave this course with the skill of, you know, what does it mean to run up a credit card? What does it mean to take out a card loan? What does it mean to take on this debt? And how much, what was that?
Student loans.
Student loans, like all of this, that they understand the ebb and flow of finance and how that can affect them. Because I mean, when we look at, you know, a lot of the kids that have come out in the last 10 to 15 years, I'm not sure the adults will be.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, back in the day, those of us in the olden days, you know, had, which used to be called home ec, believe it or
Yeah.
not, but one of the things we used to do was like you made a budget and you figured out a household budget. I mean, you know, it sounds, it was, you know, whatever, but there was value to that, you know, that you had to recognize how to sort of manage, you know, your life in that respect and finance. So that, I think, is purpose of
And
this.
I think, sorry, not to jump in, but, you know, we talked a little bit about that. Michelle and I started talking a little about that too, like, within those course, where I would agree, we need to say, like, what's the rigor, how do we talked about other supplemental curriculums that we could add in, that will enhance what's going on in those classrooms. I love the idea of adding in the AP business, under financial literacy. That's great. That upper level, for the folks that need that. But yeah, I think as we evolve this, discussing and looking at that ring on the teachers that teach those courses is part and parcel of what we need to do. And yeah, I would agree. If it's a semester course now, maybe we can say, hey, we're still not seeing. So this is why we do the program studies every year. So this is something we need to change and move or shift.
And I think Julia would be also for Erin, which is, it would be
Oh, yeah.
part and parcel of working on this. 'Cause, I mean, it's everything, I mean, it's financial scams, I mean, it's so, with the technology, and everything, it's just so complex.
And my background was a bit.
Oh,
Well, that was my question. I would assume this would be a business teacher or someone of that. That's what would be teaching this.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. If there's no other questions, I need to, this is a vote, right? I need to call.
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the Marblehead High School Program of Studies for school year 25-26.
so moved.
And a second,
Second,
Allison, I'm gonna do a, roll call, Al Williams, Brian Oda, Sarah Fox,
in favor.
Allison Taylor,
In favor.
Jen Schaffner, in favor, 2-0. Great.
Nice job.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks,
Dr. Fox,
Michelle.
appreciate it.
Thanks, Michelle.
Moving on to school year calendar, school year 25-26 calendar. Should have been in your Google Drive.
Yes, I placed in there. So, we had the calendar was, put up for discussion at our last meeting, I believe. And based upon further discussion, further input and further discussion from parents, I received, input from parents, both in favor of the, before Labor Day start and some in favor of after the Labor Day start. And what I just want to share further is, one, most school districts start before Labor Day for a multitude of reasons, not the least of which is so they don't end up going to school until the end of June. Two, it's my understanding until fairly recently, Marblehead also did before Labor Day, so this is not new. Three, Labor Day is the 1st of September this coming year, but it's gonna be, I believe, the 7th the following year. So I'm looking to hopefully establish a pattern of getting back to before the Labor Day, because what's gonna happen is we start after Labor Day this year, and start after Labor Day next year, then we're not starting until the 8th, or people are gonna say, oh, now we need to start before Labor Day. So I'd rather get some consistency here, because I think it's one of those, important things to say, here's, we know we're gonna start here, people can plan accordingly. The point is not lost on me in any way, shape, or form that this year is a atypical year between the April and February breaks and the one snow that we had that on, and everything else where the end of the school year and the beginning of the start of the next school year is a little shrunk down. But I would contend that, starting in this manner allows us to get the PD days in the front end, which is very important because, we need to do staff training, a lot of special ed training that we talked about has to happen. It hasn't been able to happen. And then those 2 days where kids start, I've been doing this for a long time and it makes sense to have that soft start. Especially for kids that are in the transition years, when they're coming into a new school, kindergarten, or whatever, seventh grade, 10th, ninth grade. It's really good for students to be able to come in and say, okay, what's the lay of the land? Where am I? What's the school look like? Without the really, huge expectations of, I gotta get the whole week of school to kind of figure stuff out. It's a soft start. It allows, teachers to really do the get to know you activities in a way that, they can get those get to know you activities, get to understand the kids in front of them. So that when they come back from Labor Day, they can hit the ground running and go forward. I know, it is a start and a stop. It's a little bit choppy with some of the other, with the holidays that we have in the calendar. I feel strongly administratively, this is, all of our administrators feel strongly that this is the way to go. That's why I'm proposing it. And I think, I would like the committee to support this calendar. I think it puts us in a good place starting next year and it sets the stage for the following. Thank you.
So I have some questions, Chad.
Yep.
I went back to the first draft you gave us on January 8th. And that first draft you gave us had students starting on the 2nd, and it only extended the school year by 1 day. So they still finished before the Juneteenth holiday. And the only thing at the end of that meeting that I thought we were looking at was that November PD day, to see if originally you proposed that it would be an election day, and then we went back and talked about that changing. So it seems like at our last meeting, we kind of took a bit of a shift from your first proposal
Yes.
to starting prior. And then we solicited some feedback. I wish I had a chance for you to share some of the feedback you received that we didn't, because the only formal feedback that we received in the school committee was parents asking it for after Labor Day. We received one from a special education parent asking that it start after, and she talked about how that start, stop with big gaps is really hard on special education students, which was one of the driving forces to why we stopped doing it this way and moved to a different format a few years ago. And then we heard from another parent this week, didn't give a reason, just said they preferred the after Labor Day. And then, additionally to that, just anecdotally about town, I've heard from people too. I'm sure others have on varying things. I just haven't received any of that formalized outreach to the school committee at all, asking.
Well, I sent it to me and said school committee. But the other thing I would say, I have to share those that. So part of that discussion, but the thing, I don't have the other calendar in front of me, but I want to say that part of the conversation was that Friday the 2nd during the winter break was come back to school day, which we know will be horrible attendance. Both staff and students, I would think. There was another day that was a similar, I can't remember the day, but it was like towards the end of the school year. It was a similar conversation. So, in my humble opinion, gaining those 2 days, so that we start after Labor Day is not cost effectiveness in the fact that we've had horrible student attendance this year based upon all the things we talked about earlier, and we're setting it up for certain days that kids aren't gonna be here. That's not, as an educator, I can't support it. So that was part of the reason why I shifted as well. So I don't really have anything more to say than that. I just reiterated my stance that I had last time. I think I stick by that reasoning, but again, it's up to the school committee. You guys decide this. Those are my reasonings.
I don't really have a question. I don't disagree with a lot of what you said. I just can't get behind this being the year to do it. Our students are gonna be in school probably till the end of June with having had zero break. Not everybody, I understand. And I guess I just can't support. I know it's 2 days or whatever, however, 3 days, whatever it is. I just feel like these children have been through so much. And then this is the year for it, but again. So,
I appreciate it.
but I understand everything in it. It wasn't this year, if we hadn't just gone through, 3 weeks of a strike and losing all these vacations as a result of that. I understand the rest of it and I would support it. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Very, very crucial.
Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I personally prefer former where we started after and only lost a day. No, there were some concerns, John. There's gonna be concerns with all the options, I believe, at this point. I guess where I'm, but I don't know if that's, I've only heard from a few people, that's not statistically representative of the town. So I guess where I have to land is trust, as you said, it's you and your administration, your staff putting this together. You feel this is the best for the students and the staff. That's what I'll support.
I agree with that.
As do I. So I'm gonna call for a vote to approve the 25-26 school year calendar. So moved by Mike. And second,
Second,
now I'm gonna call for a vote. Al Williams,
in favor?
Brian Oda,
In favor.
Sarah Fox.
Opposed.
Jen, Al Sedillo,
Not in favor.
Jen Schaffner, in favor, so 3-2. Set on the school calendar. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
We're gonna move on to the FY 26 budget timeline. I just wanted to, have a conversation with the budget subcommittee, folks, as well as Mike and John as to where we are, so we've completed our budget, hearing tonight. I imagine that the next step is you need to vote. We're gonna need to vote our budget. And the finance committee needs to vote the budget as well. And you would want to probably do it in that order, right? So we want to have a school committee vote before finance committee. Do you know when
March
you're
31st. We're slated to be, FinCom slated to vote us on March 31st, is what Al told me.
okay? March 31st is a Monday. So that would give us in theory, the 6th or the 20th to vote our budget. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? We have the hearing tonight, so we obviously want to have time for folks.
I would say the 20th, because we actually haven't had our FinCom liaisons meeting. It was supposed to be on Monday, the town website got launched in a funky way. So it's gonna be tomorrow morning. So I would just like to have that meeting, bring back any feedback from them next week. I don't anticipate there being bumps. I think the thing to celebrate here is we were able to fund all the positions that we're not laying off anybody. We don't have staff reductions. And we're able to meet the needs at a level service with what the town was able to provide. So I think that's something to celebrate. We have a lot of work ahead of us for the next year. And so, but I do want to make sure that we are able to have that FinCom liaisons meeting tomorrow and then bring back that information on the 6th. So
And also time for the public.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's time for the public to hear it tonight, obviously respond by email. There's also public comment at our next meeting. So do we think maybe the March 20th school committee meeting makes sense? Like,
I just want to throw in my past experiences. I've cut it close before between the school committee vote and the FinCom vote, and you get a snow day. Would we be prepared to add an additional meeting on the 26th just to,
Yeah.
or 27th,
Yeah, yeah,
just to approve the budget
Yeah.
in case as long as that's
Yeah.
good, yeah,
If there's a snow day.
on March
Yeah,
20th.
Labor Day.
And I'm not giving you a day's pay.
We also,
There also is a safety backup day after that for FinCom, but we're hoping not to use that safety day. We'd like to use the day. as
No
planned.
safety days, right?
Yeah,
So
and I think, you know, if we had a regular school committee. We're meeting again next week, so initially I was like, oh, we'll just go next week, but it's a little bit tight, so I would concur that we put it on the 20th probably makes sense.
Okay, so we'll shoot for the 20th for approving our budget. That's great. Then FinCom, in theory, will approve our budget on March 31st, and then it's just the March to town meeting. I don't think there's any there.
The warrant hearing, but
That's the 31st, isn't it?
no,
Oh, that's different?
That's different.
Okay.
Yes.
April. I have it in here.
Final budget,
Okay,
warrant hearing is on April 7th.
and are we involved in that, or no, that's just, well, we might be if with the, approve.
There could be a presentation.
Okay, all right, so that's the next thing, so there's we vote our budget, FinCom votes the budget, then there's a warrant hearing. And then there's town. Okay. Am I missing anything?
No,
Okay. All right, so that makes sense. All right, so that's great. So that's it for FY 26 budget. Very exciting. That done. So the next item we're gonna talk about is the superintendent, scheduling for the superintendent evaluation planning workshop. So John quite eloquently talked about his philosophy on leadership earlier. Appreciate that. And we had talked about moving forward with consideration for moving into permanent status or permanent contract with Superintendent Robidoux. So we talked about doing a formative assessment sometime this spring, leading into that. So in order to do that assessment, we had decided we would do a workshop with our representative from Mass Association of School Committees, who is prepared to do that with us. So I know we don't normally like to do the scheduling, but we've had some schedule snafus, so I just thought, can we talk about when would make sense to do this? I don't think it would make sense in a regular business meeting. I think it would be a separate workshop. And so I wanted to just get some dates or thoughts from school committee members on what you'd be looking for. I imagine, I haven't talked to Alicia because I didn't hear back from her, but I think we probably want to schedule 2 hours for that.
Yes. Shatner, is that when they do the workshop for this, that's just a workshop with the school committee, that's not a discussion. I mean, I know it's a workshop. It's when it's a true workshop.
It's an open meeting. No, it would be an open meeting. Okay, it would be an open meeting. Yeah.
are you thinking along the lines of what we did, Allison, what we did in that, when we did it all together, where we brainstormed?
That's what I would want, yeah.
Yeah, so.
And we all did our own and then came together to.
Yeah, and we worked kind of like made the sausage, if you will, and it was a really positive.
So did you do work ahead of it? Or you?
Yeah, we had homework to do. We were
Okay.
all supposed to come with what we all did is an individual evaluation. And then we came to the workshop and then we went through line item by line item. And it was time consuming, but what it did was it reflected everyone's voices in the summative, which was very helpful because we tried other iterations of it and it just, all people's voices were never included. So it was actually, I'll say this too, it was a great team building exercise too, because you really had, very, very civil discourse. If someone, I have to say, it
really was.
By the
I
committee,
understand how well it
but it was a wonderful experience with people talking about things they noticed, offering evidence.
I'm confused. I don't,
Very robust in the form.
Yeah,
I
my plan for this workshop was us to decide what we were gonna do for the formative assessment. And then come back and do that assessment in an open meeting. This was not, at least that was what what my takeaway was in our last discussion, maybe I was wrong.
I thought we had agreed that we were gonna do it the same way we done last year, but in our last workshop that we had.
But we're not doing a summative assessment, doing a formative, which is a lot less involved, not the full rubric and all of that.
Right, because, I mean, I don't know, I guess we still could do it in somewhat of the same.
Use the process.
Yeah.
But okay, so then what you're saying is that will be the evaluation. I thought we were gonna do a planning session and then come out of that and say, okay, everyone go to
Okay.
your corners and do your homework, and then
I see what
we'll
you're
come
saying.
to an open meeting and do the evaluation.
I
We
just
can do
thought
that.
that was the plan for the
Okay.
workshop.
That
Come
was-
up with
we can do that.
criteria, fill it out, and then go forward.
That's what I'm thinking about, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we aren't, so when you say the criteria, we're not using the DESI rubric anymore. I don't,
It's my understanding, Alicia is gonna let you guys know, like, what is generally involved in the formative assessment, how in depth is it, what does it technically look like? It's vastly different than the summative. The summative is all those pages and
Yeah.
pages of everything. The formative is generally something less than that, but it's more just like, hey, where are you? Are you close to meeting goals? I mean, I'm gonna try to do a goals update, at the next meeting anyway, so you guys will have an understanding of kind of where I stand, which would be good for when we go do the full formative. But generally, the formative isn't the same, it's not the same.
I do think we will need somewhat of a robust assessment that we can bring forth to the community if we are going to take the next steps.
okay, so then maybe that, but that could be part of our discussion of this
Okay.
evaluation workshop.
Does DESI use for evaluating superintendents, formative and summative, they use those words?
Yes.
So,
Okay, because usually it refers to student learning, right? When you use these terms.
When the school committee summatively evaluates me as a superintendent, it's similar to how we evaluate the administrators and the teachers, you go through the whole rubric. You get a rating of, obviously exemplary, and then, you go from there, right? Then, but the formative isn't as formal as that in terms of, you're not turning it, it's my understanding, you're not turning it into DESI or anything like that, it's just, hey, John, how are you doing? Are you meeting committee's expectations? Are you meeting who represents the public? Are you meeting all the expectations? How far are you along in your goals? What does that look like? So yeah, I mean, it's leading towards the summative, but it's the same thing as when we evaluate teachers, like in the formative, you're like, here's your goals. I see that you've done this, here's all the stuff that you're doing, and here's some feedback, like, hey, John, I think you need to do a little bit better in this area, so that we get to the summative. Hopefully, I've done some course correction if I can, so that's more what the formative is
So
about.
we're not gonna do a summative before we make the decision?
That's what I think.
That's what I'm.
no,
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 there's not enough time to be a summative.
that's
So
what,
what, I see, I look at this as this is a performance review. It is.
right, so, okay, so
And so to me, that's. And we're getting confusing.
I think we're
with
getting
summative
stuck
versus
on the
formative.
name and I
Yeah.
think that's the problem.
Right, and I think this is really, we're gonna evaluate John and assess whether his performance to this point makes sense for a permanent position. Now, is that too
Right.
simple? But that's how I look at
no,
what we need to do.
but yeah, but
Yeah.
I also am thinking that, and I don't know, this is just spitballing, that it may be also a step beyond just the some formative where we say, okay, and then what are some things that we want to do to help us make that decision? It might mean doing some community outreach or asking for community input or, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a survey, what, there may be some other things we want to do to help us make this decision.
I don't mind if we do both, right? But again, formative is helping John improve, right? Talking about how we want, and that needs to be done, right? But the summative part is evaluating what he's done. And I think that's the important piece for making the decision we're thinking of making.
Yeah, I think we're getting stuck on
Yeah.
the terms.
Yeah.
Right now, and so I'm just gonna ask at the table terms for a
Well,
second.
let's do it in
Yeah.
this evaluation workshop. That was
Yeah.
my goal. That was my goal. I don't,
Yeah,
in this workshop was to help say,
I
okay,
think,
how
I
are
think
we?
Alicia will make it very clear. That's.
so we want
that's me.
a performance evaluation and then we can talk about this as we work through this process more, but I personally, and I hope we all feel this way, that we want to solicit that community feedback from our
Absolutely.
educators, from students as appropriate age wise, in our community. That will be an important.
Yeah,
So-
I think we may need to do some homework as we've talked about, that hopefully Alicia
Alicia.
would help us understand what that may look like,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
So what, so sometime in the month of March is what I was thinking would make sense, if anybody has any.
Do you have Alicia's availability? Because that's gonna be the definitive.
No, I don't. I was actually gonna give her dates, because she seems to be very open, to be honest with you. She really does, and everyone's here, so I want to get dates from you. So,
Are we talking a day workshop,
Yeah.
a morning workshop?
I think daytime, but I don't know what.
I can make myself available on Tuesday or Wednesday morning.
Okay, so we could do it, an off week, like we could do it the week of March 10th. Or the week of the 24th.
Which would be 10. Waiting on.
Okay,
I won't be around the 10th.
John's-
oh, that's what John did, I forgot about it.
I won't be here, sorry.
That could be week of the I'm out the 19th. Are you out that day or you're out? Period. Okay, what about the week of the 24th? You know, that's.
Were people at the 18th? Was there availability for folks in the 18th?
I can't do the 18th.
Okay. Well, John, you're not back till the 18th? Are you back?
I'll be back.
I'm gonna ask the question that may be stupid, and I apologize. In the past, our superintendents have not attended a workshop.
I'm fine with that too.
So I don't want to keep you out, but I don't know if that is typical, if that could be atypical, could be another one of them.
My humble opinion, I'll do whatever you guys want. Want me there, I'll be there. If you don't want me there, that's fine. I think you probably have a more I don't want to use a little robust discussion, but I'm not there. And potentially, so I mean, I would not, let's put it this way, I won't take offense if you say we're gonna do without a job.
I think mostly coming from.
So we'll get back to the 7th, potential week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be good.
it's the 11th work for folks. Yeah, I won't be on Zoom, but that's okay.
Are you, you're not here?
No, I'm not here until the 14th, Friday.
I'll make it, the following.
Full moon.
What about you?
I can make the 14th work if that work is what works for everybody else.
No, you can do it, right. Zooming is not a problem.
Okay.
I'm,
Really have,
well, I'm not, I am,
no, I understand.
Oh.
I'm saying different dates, so we can all.
just so you know, I'm out
Yeah, but you're,
a lot.
yeah,
I'm not back, I don't basically, if I don't do it on the 14th, I'm not back until.
but you're gonna attend on Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Not-
Yeah, right.
You'll be fine.
April 8th,
You can't was enough.
I'm away. I mean, I'm not, I'll be out of luck.
Okay. Why can't we do it on the
Well,
10th?
leaving
14th is the only day,
Okay.
then
Yeah, What?
I'll change my schedule on the 14th, if that's the only day we can all get together.
well, you don't, I mean, Zoom should be, no.
Why can't we do it on the 11th?
Brian feels that I should.
Oh.
Okay.
I think your mind isn't, I don't want to push it from the 11th.
So why don't we, so the 10th is a possibility, the 11th and the 14th, is everyone great?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
There's just a little fire from.
okay, all right, so we'll do the 11th or the 14th. Okay, with Alicia, this is all based on Alicia.
Yeah.
She may be on Zoom for all I know too, so I doubt it, but, okay. Sure. 3/11, 3/14. Okay, I will be back to you folks hopefully the next day or so. Thank you, appreciate that. Subcommittee liaison and, liaison updates. Yeah, go ahead.
We redid the fact page, it was in the Dropbox.
That's not the most updated one that I had formatted for you, though.
No, I formatted it. Al and I formatted it. We took care of it.
Okay, then there'll definitely be a lot of, things I think that should be changed on it. Just from a visual looking perspective. Because I thought that was what I was tasked with doing, so I.
Never mind.
Okay, so did you did formatting and you sent it over and then?
I used the same one that was sent to me, so it's the same Google Doc.
Yeah, well, Al and I put it together the last couple of meetings.
Yeah, if it was sent, I didn't see it. And
It
that's
wasn't
fine.
sent as a Google Doc, so you go to the same Google Doc that you created in the first place that you shared with me. Because we had reviewed the FAQ as a group together. And they were formatting and just like making it pretty things that, and some wording changes that I had been tasked with. Everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy. Am I the only one that heard that?
Nope, I don't know. Did you see the?
I sent it as an attachment. I know that. And then
Okay.
no,
So
yeah,
why
I'm
don't-
not sure that. If Allison, if you could just send me the link to the Google.
Sure.
Why don't you do
Yeah.
that? and then
Dropbox,
just review-
please.
just review
Yeah,
one
that,
more
I
time,
just
then
didn't
we'll
know.
have it.
Yeah,
That's what-
no problem.
Thank you. Okay. The newsletter did go out,
Yes,
right? It's the February newsletter,
February.
and now we're.
As far as January went, we had 1,100 viewers.
Oh, wow.
Just on the school side. I have no idea what happened with the current, but you know, as far as our distribution, we were able to say about 1,100 people. which is pretty good. You figure it, biggest meetings we've ever had, maybe 30 or 40 people, so.
Yeah.
A lot more
That's
people
great.
read. We did. We just sent the February one out yesterday, so I haven't seen the numbers yet.
I'm wondering if, obviously not in our meeting, but after this, if you can follow up with the media sources that you place it with, and I don't know if they can give you the demographics on it, but it would be great to hear, if you guys see how many people are seeing it on your end as well too, just to know what
Yeah,
our
I asked
outreach
Lee
is.
if she could look into that.
What do you have it as a link, Lou, or how does
It's
it
going
go?
to the same.
I cut and paste it from your emails and then put it in onto our webpage.
No, so it's on their webpage. So they may have both newspapers.
Yeah, I haven't.
We should be direct.
Okay, everybody. So maybe we can work with, make sure it's in both newspapers. as well. Yeah, okay. Thank you for your, thanks. So newsletter and the website.
The website, it was also a form of things we want to just, Frank, you want to pop that one up, the website? That was also in Dropbox.
Yeah.
These are really just more clarifications, straightening it out, taking it out like the subcommittee for curriculum. We took that up. We decided not to do that a couple of years ago and it's still in there. So we take, and then we corrected to make sure everybody's titles were correct on the subcommittees. What else would we do?
The operating protocols font.
And my name is spelled.
Your name is Rob?
No, it's
No,
right.
you know
Right.
it is,
We
right.
just had one L, right?
Add in the school committee goals, which is great.
List of liaisons, SACs as well. We used to at one point.
Yeah, the school committee operating protocols has this odd font.
Yeah.
And I can't change it. I don't know what
It's a
it is, but
PDF, so-
It looks like you're yelling at people to read it. You know, it's got that hard look to it. I like to make
It
it
really
a
does.
little less,
It's a PDF.
Yelling at you for our protocol.
well, yeah, I mean, that's the old style. You want yelling, yeah.
It looks like
So
type
Brian,
it.
Brian, that's like PDF on there, so
It
we'll,
is.
we'll
We'll have to
convert the
yeah.
PDF. Right?
The other
But
thing
you,
now-
Mike said if you convert the PDF.
Mike will turn on the PDF and send it to you and then you can fix it.
Okay, I mean, I have Adobe, but keeps asking me for administrator's approval. I bought it myself, so I'm like, I'm the administrator. I don't get it. Yeah.
I'm getting a little punchy.
Also, Al noticed that our school committee mission and the one with the district are one and the same. And we were beginning to question whether we should look at that and have a separate one for the school committee. You know, it should always be in lockstep with what the district is, but the school committee has different responsibilities.
Yeah.
And I think that. you know,
Maybe the vision should be the same, but something we figured, let's get through the budget.
Yeah, get
cycle.
through the budget and then we'll start looking.
We're analyzing just not the look and typos, but just more of the content. And just, better representing what we do, what we don't do, and, things that are.
Didn't the school committee doesn't have this on?
No, it's, if you look at the webpage. it is-
Historically, we did have a different one. Yeah. And nope, the a previous combination of school committee took a vote to unify it. And make it the same.
Interesting.
So that's something we can probably work at after, maybe after.
Yeah,
town
after the budget, we decided, but I just want to give you a heads up that we want to look at that. So,
meeting. No, that's great.
Frank, can you just pull down for that? That was it. Okay.
Great.
Uh,
Thank you.
Just from we done? with
Yeah.
Applications.
Can-
There is
I-
on, get my date here correct. On March 20th, there's a Metco Advocacy Day, 2025. It is at the State House, and it's from 9 to 1:30. So if you're interested in attending, please let me know and I'll send you details.
Thank you. Thanks. That's great. All right.
I do have one other question on on the school committee part of the website, there's a, it's called resources tab. And
Sorry.
Forget all about it.
On the school committee page is a resources tab. Resources link on the left-hand side that says to visit the community page for some things and then has other resources and some of them are duplicative. I think that might be a place to put them all in one place. And then probably don't have that resources section just in the homepage of the school committee. Note that, you know, resources can be found in the community link. And then have all of those resources in the community link. And maybe hopefully find a logo for the vets in the high school, so help us. Just ugly black box right now.
They must have one.
Right. Or did you use the app?
No, yeah, I've never been to that community page before, so.
No, me neither. And the resources page brings you there.
Right,
But then it has some additional
It's
resources that are
duplicate,
duplicative, so,
okay, we can look at that.
Thank you. All right, so budget has been explained. Facilities, we haven't met again since our meeting 2 weeks ago, so it's not an update there. There was an SAC meeting at Brown this week. We had a presentation during that on iReady results. I had something I wanted to bring up under school committee requests that are on the agenda on that. To give us an update about what the student groups are doing there, their student council, I guess they're coming to present to us at some point in March. Very exciting.
Yeah, so Glover is the next meeting. Glover's on the sixth, and then Hubble's down there, so we have someone. All 5 schools that are in.
Yeah, so I can't wait to see what the other schools are doing, because I get to see a glimpse at it through the SAC at Brown, what they're doing, for that student voice there. And it's really exciting for those students. I think one thing to celebrate was the students actually helped that student voice group helped to write a grant for the Friends of Marblehead Public School. So there will be a grant request coming from our elementary students, which is also really exciting. So lots of stuff going on there. And then policy, we talked about during accommodations, we had our forum last night. 2 weeks ago, we had a forum with students. Last night we had a community forum. I'm trying to schedule us for next week, hopefully Wednesday. I'm just waiting to hear from again from Alicia Nallen from MASC, because we have to review the protocols with her. So hopefully I'll get that worked out tomorrow, and that will get posted for next week. And report back. We probably will be coming back at the next school committee meeting, hopefully with a draft flag policy. That's the goal, so. Let you know about that. I think that's it. Ready for subcommittees? Great. New business.
I had something I wanted to request be on a future agenda. I would like keep using the word robust. Presentation on the iReady scores. We just did, I know, a mid-year assessment. That's what was presented at the SAC. I'd like to see them presented, you know, at each school level. I believe we do them right now at 4 of our schools. One of the things that I noticed while we were going through the school level ones were 50% roughly of our students are 1 grade level or more below. And so I think it's a little more nuanced than that. And so I think it'd be really helpful, especially as these reports go home to families in the next week, for us to get a presentation on that from Julia, and she can explain that more. Because it isn't, my understanding is it isn't necessarily as simplistic as those 4 headings, but I do think it's really important for the committee as a whole to get that view, so that we can see where we are with student achievement and what areas maybe as a district one.
and I think even if understanding even that it's not necessarily as black and white as that 50% number, it's still an alarming number.
Is that other committee members interested in having that as a presentation?
Yep.
So I read the assessment scores, and that's what happens when we do her special.
Yes.
But they, then I'll talk to Julia too, to see if there's any other things that she feels that she can either add into already and or wants to share. From her group.
And then
again, it's to the will of the committee, but one thing I was hoping to see when we see that presentation is hopefully to see Lisa Marie and Julia and how that special education and general education really weave together. Because when at first glance, when you see that number of 50%, you start to ask, because statistically, we have a higher percentage of students on IEPs in Marblehead than the state average. Are those two things tied together? And how are those two departments working because they do work together. How are they working together to use not just this testing, but other testing sources to get ahead of things and maybe, hopefully we can reduce the need of for students.
Yeah, I think, you know, the 52%, I'm not sure what that number's come from, but that'll, yeah, definitely be clarified in our, you know, shared out. In if that's an accurate thing or if this,
Okay.
yeah, and I think the overlap with special ed is always, meaningful and needed, so I would agree. Make that happen.
Okay, any other new business?
And any plans to improve? You know, what are we going to be doing with that? How are we going to be using that data to, you know, for next year, or for planning for the curriculum? Managing, I don't even know all of the areas, obviously. I think that's a big piece of this that I want to know about, but I'm sure the community does as well, because that's an alarm. I mean,
Well, and also it is, what was explained to me is it is much more nuanced. Like they may be testing things now that our math curriculum doesn't teach till later in the year was what it was explained to me.
Right.
It is more nuanced, but I would like, from the committee standpoint, to have this presentation to see where our students, because this is nationally normed, where we are in and any potential areas of growth and areas to celebrate. So.
and even how that, you know, sometimes I feel like that's a little, I have to be honest, like that response, not from you, I mean, just saying that it's nuanced or we're not teaching it till later is, you know, you see with our MCAS scores, it kind of is the same. We're not, you know, getting the best there either. We have a lot of students that are below average there. And that's, those two things together are concerned.
So, yeah, so I think reporting out on that data will be important, it'll be
Right.
accurate data, you know, I mean, a lot of times people, I'm not saying this is the case here, but even for all numbers that aren't accurate. The gentleman said something like. Percent of our four-graded family, that was totally not. Greater, correct, so I think we need to be. No, so I think, you know, those are the kind of things to be careful of, so I'd rather make sure that we have the conversation, with the actual numbers. What is that, and if it's true, 50% are a grade level below, that is concerning, is that accurate, yes or no? What are the, how we address that, and what ways to address that, and it's all valid questions, so.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna call, or I'm just gonna.
Do you want to talk about next week?
Oh,
Or do you want to do that offline?
I think we'll do that off.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna adjourn us at 8:13.
Thank you, everyone.
What flavor is that coffee? I've been smelling this for some time. Oh, it's not, it's good. Yeah, it's really good. But I smelled it the whole time, making me hungry. Oh, no, no.
When I go.